You're gonna get robbed. Not maybe, not if, not someday. When the power grid fails, and it will, looters won't be kicking in random doors. They'll be coming for you. Because you've got the glow, the hum, the heat, and in a dead city full of starving people, that makes you a lighthouse for violence. After Hurricane Maria, people were murdered over gas cans. In Venezuela, generators were stolen by gangs with drones and rifles. And during the 2021 Texas blackout, hospitals were raided for blankets. This isn't the movies. There's no warning, no slow descent. Collapse is a light switch. One click and it's gone. So ask yourself right now, what have you buried? Not hidden, not locked in a closet. Buried, invisible, untouchable. Because if it's above ground, it's a target. And if someone even thinks you're stalked, they'll come. And they won't knock. This list isn't about what to buy. It's about what to vanish, what to disguise, what to make disappear before the looting starts. Because when the trucks stop rolling and the mobs start moving, you won't have time to rethink your plan. You'll either be ready or picked clean. Let's start at number 10. Sewing kits, shoe repair, and DIY fabric fix supplies. You ever seen a grown man cry over a broken boot? You will when it's week 3 of a grid-down collapse and his only pair of shoes splits down the sole during a supply run. Here's the harsh truth. We've built our wardrobes around fast fashion and zero self-reliance. Over 90% of Americans don't know how to patch a sock, let alone rebuild the tread on a work boot. During World War II, even kids were taught how to stitch, darn, and reinforce garments because textile supply chains evaporated under the strain. And guess what? That was with a functioning government. In a looting scenario, you won't be replacing ripped pants. You'll be praying your thread doesn't run out. So bury it now. Heavy-duty needles, waxed thread, shoe glue, awls, replacement laces, thimbles, even tiny eyelets for boot relacing. One guy I know hides his gear inside a gutted toaster oven. It looks like scrap, but it's holding enough gear to outfit a militia. You'll also want denim patches, wool scraps, even a hand-crank sewing machine if you can get one. During the collapse in Yugoslavia, clothing repairs became currency. You'd trade a patch job for bread, no questions asked. But here's the kicker. Visible repair gear is loot bait. Hide it in bins labeled holiday decorations, or pack it into gutted vacuum cleaners. And practice now, because sewing through thick fabric takes strength, not just skill. When your boots fall apart midwinter, or your backpack strap rips during a dash, you'll wish you'd buried more than food. Because in a world where Walmart is rubble, the guy with a needle and thread is king. 9. Solar chargers, crank generators, and battery rotation kits. You think you're clever storing AA batteries and a few flashlights in a drawer? Cute. But let me tell you what happens 2 weeks after the grid dies. Batteries die. Devices go dark. Morale collapses. And those solar garden lights you thought were backup illumination? Useless without a proper charger. Most Americans don't realize lithium-ion batteries lose 20–30% of charge every month sitting idle. Even alkaline batteries degrade faster in humid or hot conditions. During the 2021 Texas freeze, people tried to recharge phones using running cars, until the gas ran out. Others tried to buy power banks, only to find the shelves empty. You know what worked? Hand-crank radios, fold-out solar mats, low-output DC trickle chargers, devices built for slow, reliable power. You want to bury something useful? Bury the tools that turn sunlight, motion, or heat into volts. Here's what's in my cache. 3 solar panels, flexible roll-up, 2 crank dynamos with USB out, 1 Peltier heat converter for campfire charging, and 100 low-drain rechargeable AA and AAA cells in rotation. Stored in Mylar, labeled Christmas lights parts, hidden inside a disused grill. And the battery rotation system? Critical. Mark charge dates. Use silica gel packs. Store different chemistries apart. NIMH and lithium don't play nice. During the Puerto Rican blackout, the average household had access to grid power for just 4 hours a day, for 7 months. If you had solar or crank, you ate hot. If you didn't, you watched your flashlight flicker out and prayed. In a long blackout, power isn't just convenience, it's control. So bury your voltage. Because when the sun rises and your phone's dead, it's too late. 8. Water filtration kits and hidden purification supplies. Let me paint a picture. You've got the beans, the rice, the ammo. You even have a cache of freeze-dried food that'd make a doomsday YouTuber weep. But your water? Contaminated. Because here's what happens when a city's infrastructure dies. The pumps stop, pipes crack, sewage leaks into rivers. And your neighbors? They'll start hauling water from ditches and storm drains, and if you're smart, you won't drink a drop of what they hand you. In the 2010 Haiti earthquake aftermath, clean water became so rare that cholera outbreaks killed over 8,000 people. Not from wounds, not from violence, from water. And in the U.S., over 45 million Americans still get drinking water from systems that violate EPA standards. That's now. In collapse, multiply that by chaos. So bury this. Gravity-fed filters, ceramic cartridges, UV pen purifiers, activated charcoal, and thousands of water purification tablets. I bury mine in PVC tubes labeled sprinkler parts, double-sealed with wax and zip-tied inside canvas bags. But here's the part nobody talks about. Boil-only strategies are dangerous. Fires draw eyes. Smoke gives away position. You want stealth purification? Use iodine, bleach, 8 drops per gallon, and solar. Disinfection. SODIS is your secret weapon. Leave water in clear PET bottles under direct sunlight for 6+ hours and let UV rays do the work. During the 2011 Japanese tsunami crisis, military-grade filters were traded like gold. And looters didn't want food. They wanted water they wouldn't die from. So bury yours. Deep. Because the first time your kid's lips crack from dehydration and your rain barrel's slimy, that $20 Sawyer Mini you forgot to hide won't just feel like a mistake. It'll feel like a death sentence. 7. Cash, silver, and barter-grade currency substitutes. When the banks close, the ATMs go dead, and the Wi-Fi vanishes. Guess what doesn't care? A silver quarter. You can't Venmo a farmer for eggs. You can't crypto your way into a backroom deal for fuel. And when looters realize their debit cards are useless, paper cash and physical trade goods become the only languages that matter. In Venezuela, during the 2017 collapse, hyperinflation made bolivars worthless, but US dollars, silver coins, even bottles of shampoo became black market currency. During the Greek financial crisis, barter clubs popped up using everything from rice to aspirin as trade. So what should you bury? First, break your wealth into micro-packets, zip-sealed, waterproof, and non-sequentially marked. I use ammo cans labeled plumbing bits buried under firewood piles. Inside, small denomination cash, silver dimes, pre-1965 quarters, 90% silver, and trade goods, travel-size soap, Bic lighters, single-use razors, antibiotic ointment. These aren't luxuries. They're currency. Want stats? A silver dime held its purchasing power better than the US dollar for the last 100 years because you can't print silver. And here's the kicker. Flashy gold draws bullets. Silver buys you a favor. Keep it ugly. No mint coins, no fancy cases, and always bury in multiple locations. One big score attracts thieves. But 5 small caches? Survivable. Trust me, when the EBT cards stop working and your neighbor's waving a 22 asking for just a little gas, a silver coin might save you faster than a shotgun shell. Because in the new economy, the only things that matter are what you have in hand, and what you buried before the rest of the world woke up hungry and broke. 6. Prescription meds, antibiotics, and veterinary substitutes. Let's talk about the thing nobody wants to admit they depend on. Pills. Whether it's insulin, blood pressure meds, thyroid support, or antidepressants, over 66% of American adults are on at least one prescription. And during a collapse, that stat becomes a death sentence. After Hurricane Maria, Puerto Rican pharmacies were inoperable for weeks, and insulin-dependent diabetics were dying in parking lots. Not from the storm, from supply chain failure. Now scale that to a national event. Civil unrest, grid down, looting. Your Walgreens is either burned out or locked down under National Guard. You think you'll get by? Think again. Even short-term withdrawal from meds like SSRIs or clonidine can cause hallucinations, seizures, and suicidal behavior. So what do you bury? First, surplus prescription meds. If your doctor is sympathetic, stock a 90-day emergency supply and rotate it monthly. Next, veterinary-grade antibiotics. Fishmox Forte, amoxicillin, Fishflex, cephalexin, and others are chemically identical to human prescriptions. During the Greek financial collapse, black market antibiotics surged in price by 800% in 6 months. Store yours in vacuum-sealed bags, labeled pet meds, and stash them inside metal tins buried in dry ground. Add printed dosage charts because your phone won't be working. And don't overlook mental health meds. Those go fastest in a panic. Painkillers? Controlled substances? You better believe looters will sniff those out like bloodhounds. So keep your stash disguised. One man I know hides his entire medkit in an old shop vac he painted neon orange. It looks like garbage. It's not. In a world without doctors, the guy with antibiotics isn't just alive. He's powerful. He's needed. And if you didn't bury it early, you'll be the one begging at 2 a.m. while someone else decides if you're worth the trade. 5. Lockpicking tools, entry kits, and escape devices. You want to talk real survival? Let's talk access. Because when the system fails and people start hoarding behind chained gates, padlocks, and deadbolts, knowing how to get in or out without making a sound becomes the difference between life and starvation. During the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, survivors in remote towns often had to break into shuttered stores and abandoned homes just to reach clean water or emergency supplies. And those with lockpicks? They got what they needed. Quietly. Efficiently. Legally ambiguous? Sure. Survival doesn't ask for permission slips. In the 2023 Sudan conflict, local reports showed that civilians with lock bypass tools were able to escape looted areas days before others, because they could move through locked zones silently, avoiding mob checkpoints and barricaded streets. You think bolt cutters are enough? Wrong. They're loud. They leave a trail. What you bury is finesse. Tension wrenches, rake picks, shims, jigglers, padlock shims, and a good bump key set, along with a dummy kit for distraction. Mine's buried in a steel thermos marked coffee grinder parts, tucked behind a decoy compost pile. And here's the trick. Train. Picking isn't plug and play. Practice on old locks. Learn the feel. Because when the looting starts, the guy picking locks looks like a criminal. But when the cities burn and the screams echo down your street, he's just the guy getting through the door to a better chance. Add in zip tie cutters, window punches, handcuff keys, and even climbing straps. You're not planning to steal. You're planning to survive. And survival means movement. Get through gates. Get out of traps. Get away clean. Because the apocalypse doesn't care about your keyring. It rewards the one who knows how to disappear through a locked door. 4. Hazmat gear, N95 masks, and radiation protection. Most folks think looting is just about food and fuel, that it's all bad guys with bricks and backpacks. But history tells us something darker. When the system collapses, so does biosecurity. Waste backs up. Industrial sites leak. And in the panic, someone always cracks open something they shouldn't. In 1987, 2 scavengers in Brazil looted a hospital for scrap and accidentally released radioactive cesium-137. Over 100,000 people were exposed, 4 died, and entire neighborhoods had to be buried under concrete. Now imagine that happening during a blackout. Except this time, there's no hazmat team coming. So what do you bury? N95 masks? Sure, but go further. NBC-rated gas masks, P100 respirators, Tyvek suits, potassium iodide tablets, radiation dosimeters, gloves, goggles, and overshoes. Because when the chemical plant 6 miles from your house loses power and starts venting God knows what into the sky, you won't have time to Google safety protocol. During the Fukushima meltdown, Japanese citizens with radiation meters were able to evacuate days before government orders because they knew their risk. Others? They stayed. They got cancer. They lost everything. I keep my hazmat kit in a sealed drum labeled paint supplies buried in the crawl space. Inside, iodine tabs, gas mask filters vacuum sealed in foil, and a fold-out Geiger counter with spare batteries. This isn't prepper paranoia, it's statistical foresight. The U.S. has over 15,000 hazardous chemical facilities, many of which are unmanned during disasters. And you know what looters don't steal? Radiation kits, because they don't know what they are, until it's too late. So bury yours deep, bury it smart, and bury it now. Because in the middle of a blackout, the scariest thing in the air isn't a bullet, it's the stuff you can't see that burns from the inside out. 3. Firearms, spare parts, and non-serialized weapons. Forget what you think you know about home defense. This isn't about gun ownership, it's about gun invisibility. Because the minute a city goes dark, the first thing looters go looking for isn't your food, it's your firepower. In Bosnia during the 90s, militias went door to door in the first week of urban collapse and confiscated firearms from anyone who looked too ready. Why? Because firepower equals threat. And in chaos, threats get neutralized. So you want to survive? You don't flash your weapons. You bury them, and not just the guns. You stash the magazines, the cleaning kits, the bore snakes, the spare bolts, the recoil springs, the oil, the pins, everything that makes your firearm more than a paperweight. Bonus points if you stash a ghost gun, non-serialized, untraceable. In 2024, ATF reports showed a 1,083% increase in ghost gun recoveries over the past 4 years. That's not fringe anymore. That's survival. I keep mine in a vacuum-sealed PVC pipe stored under an old compost bin. Inside, a .22 takedown rifle, 200 rounds, wrapped in oiled cloth with spare parts and a disassembled red dot sight. Why .22? Because in collapse, every shot echoes. You want low profile, low noise, easy barter. And yes, you bury dummy caches too, fake ammo cans, rusted parts. Give them something to steal, then walk away. Because in a world gone feral, the guy who walks into a raid unarmed is a target. The guy who looks unarmed but isn't, he gets to walk out. If you don't bury your weapons, someone else is going to be using them against you. 2. Seeds, soil additives, and crop cheat sheets. So you're sitting on 3 months of canned beans and dried rice. Congratulations, you've got about 90 days to figure out how to grow food or starve. Because here's what most preppers still don't get. Stockpiles run out, always. And by the time you realize your stash is down to lentils and regret, the ground you need to farm will already be stripped, stomped, or toxic. After the Soviet collapse, even middle-class Russians resorted to planting crops in roadside ditches and abandoned lots, because grocery stores were just theater. There was nothing left. And the ones who survived, they had buried seeds. Not just any seeds, heirloom, open-pollinated, non-hybrid, seeds you can save and replant. Not that GMO garbage that gives you one harvest and then quits. You want to know what's better than gold after 6 months of collapse? A sealed bag of kale, beans, and squash that sprouts food you can eat and trade. But it's not just seeds. You bury compost tea packs, mycorrhizal fungi starters, azomite powder. You bury soil fixes, because collapse doesn't change the fact that your local dirt might be trash. I've buried vacuum-sealed seed vaults inside metal paint cans, wrapped in aluminum foil, desiccant-packed, labeled clay samples. And yes, I buried laminated crop guides, planting dates, spacing, sun needs, pest resistance. Because when you haven't eaten in 2 days, Googling how to grow carrots isn't an option. In Venezuela's economic crash, seeds were so valuable, they were traded for insulin. In Cuba, backyard gardens became primary calorie sources. Your stash might keep you alive for a month. But your seeds? That's what keeps you alive forever. 1. Your identity, and the lie you built to replace it. Let me break something to you that most preppers never say out loud. When it all collapses, you can't just disappear your gear. You have to disappear yourself. Because when the looting starts, when the violence kicks off, and when people get desperate enough to follow smoke columns, warm windows, or the smell of hot stew, what they're really following is identity. The hint that you are prepared. The whisper that you used to work in logistics. or probably have a stash. In post-Katrina New Orleans, over 60% of targeted home invasions were carried out by people who had known the victim before the disaster. Friends, neighbors, co-workers. They didn't steal because they were evil. They stole because they remembered. So what's your number one prep? It's the story you bury, the illusion you build. I've got a friend who faked a foreclosure on his own house, boarded the windows, killed the lights, painted graffiti on the siding. That house is actually a hardened bunker with 3 escape tunnels and a garden under grow lights in the basement. Nobody looks twice. That's the game. Tactical invisibility. Fake leaks in your roof. Dead lawn. Broken down car in the driveway. Social media presence that screams, "This guy's broke." Meanwhile, every real asset, food, comms, firepower, is buried or disguised. You want to survive the looting? Erase your past. Rewrite your present. Lie so well, so convincingly, that your neighbors feel sorry for you when they themselves are starving. In a collapse, reputation is bait. You bury it. You bury the gear. You bury your tracks. And then you go quiet. Because the only thing more dangerous than not being ready is being seen to be ready. That's it. If you're still thinking this is paranoid, just remember, no one loots an empty house. They loot the one with light, the one with sound, the one where someone thought they saw a stockpile. This list wasn't about what to collect. It was about what to vanish. What to make disappear before someone else makes you disappear. Because in every collapse, from Ukraine to Portland to Port-au-Prince, it's not the unprepared who get hit first. It's the visible. It's the talkers. It's the ones who thought they had time. You don't. So here's your final prep. Say nothing. Glow less. And start digging. Because if you didn't bury it, someone else is going to dig it up. And it won't be you.